A new potential deal for the freedom of the remaining 132 Israeli hostages that Hamas has been holding in Gaza for almost 4 months would most probably force Israel to end the war without driving Hamas out of Gaza. Prime Minister Netanyahu is adamant that won't happen.
We will not conclude this war without achieving all of its goals. This means eliminating Hamas, returning all of our hostages, and ensuring that Gaza never again constitutes a threat to Israel. We will not withdraw the IDF from the Gaza Strip, and we will not release thousands of terrorists. None of this will happen. What will happen? Total victory.
As the war drags on without an end in sight, more Israelis are becoming increasingly vocal in their support for the families of the hostages and in pressuring Netanyahu to accept the hostage deal terms.
And we think that there needs to be a change or rethinking of the current plan in place in order to get a deal done that brings the hostages out. And it's a matter of price. If the Prime Minister had maybe a son in Gaza, maybe he would think a bit differently about what the price he would be willing to pay.
At the same time, right-wing hardliners in Netanyahu's government say they will leave the coalition and bring down the government if he ends the war with Hamas still in power in Gaza. Netanyahu is also under pressure from U.S. President Joe Biden to agree to a deal that will create a Palestinian state in the West Bank and Gaza Strip under the control of what U.S. administration officials say should be a revitalized Palestinian Authority. Israeli analysts say that navigating these conflicting domestic and international demands is proving to be a challenge, even for Netanyahu, Israel's longest-serving prime minister. Most expect an election in Israel once the war ends, and maybe even before, if the war goes on for an extended period of time.
There are clearly many pressures on Prime Minister Netanyahu to set an agreed-upon time for elections. But as we know in the Middle East, there is nothing so permanent as a temporary agreement or an interim understanding, whether that has to do with political relationships or diplomatic relationships or even strategy.
Latest polls show that only 15% of Israelis want Netanyahu to remain as prime minister after the war. Many say they have lost faith in his government after the catastrophic intelligence and security failures which enabled the Hamas attacks of October 7th.
The likelihood of Netanyahu snatching somehow an electoral future from the jaws of the electoral abyss where he currently seems to be is very low.
The Israeli leader has so far refused to accept responsibility for the October 7th attacks, but analysts say many Israelis hold Netanyahu accountable and believe it's time for him to go. Linda Gradstein, VOA News, Jerusalem.